All right, what's good, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. I know a few of you have been reaching out to me because you wanted me to talk about this Conor Benn situation. All right. Well, first thing, I'm moving. I'm actually moving in a few days. Okay. I actually have been spending the past week packing, getting everything sorted out while working at the same time. Okay. So with that being said, it's gonna be slow next week or so with the content. But I will try to put whatever I can out there when I have some downtime. Okay. With this situation though, with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. fight being postponed, it's actually official now. The reason why I was waiting is because A, I don't really have that much time, and B, I was actually waiting to see what the final decision was going to be. You know, I didn't know if the fight was going to go on or not. I definitely was going to address it at some point, but I wanted to wait. I didn't want to make 30 videos talking about what Eddie Hearn said, what Conor Benn said, what Chris Eubank Jr. said, what the BBB of C said, VADA, UCAD. I'm not going to keep doing that. All these different interviews. I wanted to wait until the final decision. Where is this going to go? Where are we going to be? Are we even going to get this fight, or we're not going to get this fight? What's going to happen from here? All right. But I've been paying attention to all of it. And, you know, I hate this part of boxing, but it's a part of boxing. It's a part of the sport. Fight postponements, fights cancellations, reschedules, injuries, failed drug tests, getting arrested, fights not getting sanctioned, stuff like that. You know, we getting that news. We just heard the news of Daniel Dubois and Lucas Brown. BBB of C is not going to sanction that fight. So this is a part of boxing, and lately we've been getting a lot of it, and I'm actually getting annoyed. And I'm at the point now, I'm back at the point where I don't feel comfortable with making purchases for fights unless it's local. You know what I'm saying? I do travel for fights. I've always been willing to travel for fights. But even like the Spence Crawford situation, you know, I was this close to purchasing my tickets, booking the hotel and the flights for November 19th. And it looks like we're not getting the fight. We're not going to get the fight on November 19th at the end of the day. So with that being said, this is a problem. And now that this fight is being postponed between Chris Eubank and Conor Benn, just imagine the amount of people that have purchased tickets for this fight, flights, hotels. This is the gamble you have. This is why a lot of fighters or a lot of fans do not love this sport anymore. You know, they don't want to play. They don't want to have anything to do with it, you know, this sport, because of stuff like this. Now, if you don't know what's going on, I mean, Conor Benn tested positive for Clomid, clomiphene. Okay, it's basically a women's infertility drug that can be used to help, you know, become pregnant. But men can use it as well. I looked it up. It can be a drug used to help cycle off steroids, like for bodybuilders and stuff like that. It can be used to help build testosterone, but it can also be used as something to cycle off a drug. Okay. And it's actually very easy to find. It's not really, you know, if you can Google the uses of it with males, is really not like, you know, people are going to say, well, it's not a steroid or anything like that. Okay. But it can still be used to give you an advantage. All right. For, you know, power or speed, or it can give you, you know, it can make you fight for a longer period of time than normal. So it does give you an advantage. All right, so people are going to try to downplay. And listen, I've been doing it for years. I've been covering these. I'm not saying I'm an expert on drugs, because I'm not. But as far as covering failed drug tests, I've been doing it for years. And I can tell you that you're going to always have biases because of the fighter themselves. The fans are going to support Conor Benn. They're going to say, oh, we didn't even get a B sample. Okay, well, the B sample and A sample always matches all the time. You know, I can't think of a time where it didn't. The A and the B samples are always going to be identical. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, but you just got biases. So people are going to defend Conor Benn. You know, they're going to wait and they're going to say, you know, they don't believe that he would do something like this, because Conor Benn, if you listen to his interviews, he seems like a nice guy. He seems like a guy that wouldn't want to cheat. But you know, when we find out that most of these fighters that most of them, not all of them, but most of them that test positive for a banned substance, you don't think that they would be the type to do it until they get caught. You know, and then everybody goes into making excuses. They want to defend the fighter. They want to defend the promoter. They want to defend, you know, the network. You know, they don't want things to fall in that, because you know how boxing fans are. Boxing fans, you know, you got the pro PBC people that are, you know, are usually against the pro top rank people or the pro matchroom people or golden boy people. That's just how boxing is. It's not just about the fight anymore. It's more about who you like as a promoter better, or what network do you support more. So being that Conor Benn is with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, there are going to be people that are going to support and ride with him and defend him by bringing up fighters that are with other networks, other fighters that got caught cheating before. This is my stance on this whole thing, and it's very simple. When fighters pop dirty, they're not a victim. Okay? Sometimes I'm sure some of them might have not. They thought that whatever they were taking, they were told that it was safe to do it. Maybe they are, you know, negligent and don't really know what they're taking, or what they maybe believe that maybe what they're taking is clean, you know? Sometimes that's part of the camp. Sometimes it could be the fighter themselves. I really don't know. But if you agree to take this test, you got to be careful, and you got to know what you're putting in your body, because we don't want to take credit away from the fighters that have gone their whole career, became champions in multiple divisions or whatever, and they never popped dirty. You know, not saying that they were clean, but I'm sure there's a good amount of them that are clean. And I'm sure there's a good amount of them that was on some kind of substance that was illegal, that they just never got caught using. And I think that's part of the reason why these fighters keep getting caught, is because maybe they were on it, maybe whatever way they used it, maybe it worked for them in the past, and they figured that they can keep trying it. They didn't get caught before. Fighters keep getting caught because they feel, A, that there's a lot of other fighters they know that's probably using it, and B, they feel that they got away with it before, and they probably feel that they can really get away with it. You know, it's an ongoing issue in boxing, you know, and my stance is, listen, when you get caught, you get caught. I don't feel bad for you. If they cancel the fight, it is what it is. I'm pissed off as a fan because I wanted to see the fight. You know, you guys see my content that I made on this fight already. I've said that I was excited for it because of the buildup. I liked what Chris Eubank was able to do by selling the fight. He sold me the fight. He made me interested. I was looking at it as just, this is just some sort of mismatch. I don't really care for these guys that's going to go up in two divisions to fight, you know, a top guy or one of the best guys in another division when they didn't even prove that they're the top dog in the current division that they're fighting, or the division that they're currently fighting in. You know, I've said this about Mikey Garcia. I said this about Kell Brook. I don't even know if you're the best right now at 147. For you to go up to 160 and fight, maybe not a champion there, but clearly Chris Eubank is one of the top fighters at 160. I don't even know what you could do at 147. It hasn't been proven. Right? So my stance on that is, look, you got caught. It sucks. You're going to catch a lot of heat for it. You're probably going to catch a lot of heat for it for the rest of your career. You know, that's just, somebody's going to always bring it up. It's happened to some of my favorite fighters. It's happened with Roy Jones, Shane Mosley. Okay, it's happened with John Bones Jones, you know, who I think is the greatest MMA fighter ever, you know, or top 3 ever. It's happened with him, and people are going to always bring it up. more recently. It's happened with Luis Ortiz. It happened with Oscar Valdez. It happened with Alexander Povetkin. All of these fighters I still respect. I always respect them anyway, because of what they did in their entire catalog. But at that time, when it happened, we are gonna criticize them for popping dirty. It is what it is. We can't just pick and choose. And another thing that's totally irresponsible by these sorry for the ambulance noise. Another thing that I have a problem with fans is that just saying, well, let everybody juice. Let everybody juice. You know what? Why are we even making this a big deal when we know that there's a lot of fighters that juice anyway? So let's just let everybody juice. And I'm like, man, that's the problem. Because that's what everybody says as soon as a fighter that they support pops dirty. Let everybody juice. No, that's not let everybody juice. Because there's people dying. There's somebody that died in the ring last week. The last thing we need to do is make it even more dangerous. Because every fighter is going to be enhanced. They're going to hit harder. They're going to throw more punches. They're going to be faster. So let's not just be lazy and irresponsible by saying, well, let everybody juice. No. Especially when you agree to have VADA testing. You made it. You agreed to have it. If you didn't want the VADA testing, you know what? Just have an exhibition. Make whatever weight the stipulation you want. All right, whatever rules, whatever amount of rounds you want, don't have any VADA testing. You won't be ranked. But if you want to get that bag, like Benn and Eubank wanted to do off their father's names, right? Because this is what it's all about. Have your own exhibition fight because this is an exhibition. It's an execution. It would have been an execution, but it's an exhibition. Have an exhibition, do whatever rules you want. You don't have to worry about the British Boxing Border Control. You don't have to worry about UCAD or VADA. You don't have to worry about any of that. Do what you want to do. Have the fight. Do it the YouTube way, what these YouTube fighters are doing. At the end of the day, this is why they're so relevant right now. Because the real boxers can't get it together. We can't get Fury and Joshua. We can't get Spence and Bud Crawford. We couldn't get Wilder and Joshua. Now we can't get Benn and Eubank when they had built this up for this past month and a half or so. There are people that left comments under my videos, and I've seen it in other people's channels and on Twitter and social media. People were really excited for the fight because of the history. Because of the history. Now I wasn't there to see it live. I was around, but I wasn't following that area of boxing. The only British fighters that I was really following at that time when I was a kid was Lennox Lewis, Frank Bruno, like the heavyweight guy. I wasn't really following the Eubanks and the Benns and stuff, I wasn't. The middleweights that I was following were the American ones. I just didn't know about those guys. But once the internet became available, I would go back and watch those and learn about who they were and what they did, So I understand how big these fights are to a lot of people. But Conor Benn tested positive for something that's banned. And he needs to be held accountable for it, like everybody else that tested positive for it. Gerald Miller. Once Lucas Brown, once it becomes a pattern, it's like, Gerald Miller, it's like, I think he popped dirty on a substance even when he did MMA. And then he popped before the Joshua fight, and he popped again when he got down with Top Rank. You know, it's like, all right, this dude just can't do it. You know, he just can't stay clean. He said it was off sex pills. You know, I mean, but even so, like, you know, there's plenty of fighters that look, it happened. It doesn't mean I'm not going to support your fights again. Because I supported all of these guys. I continue to cover all of these guys' fights and done breakdowns with them and respected what they've done. You know, guys like Povetkin and Ortiz, especially Luis Ortiz. I'm a big fan of Luis Ortiz. You know, I still wanted them to fight Wilder. You know, I remember when Wilder and the Povetkin situation happened, and I wanted Wilder to still go out there in Russia and fight him anyway, because I was a little younger then, and I'm just still the fan in me, you know. But don't agree to drug testing if you're not going to stay clean. Know what you're putting in your body. There are plenty of fighters that I've heard interviews, because this happens all the time. Chris Algiers is speaking, Chris Van Heerden, you know, all these guys that Conor Benn recently beat, now they're speaking out, and they're saying, and I've heard this countless times, I've always been cautious and careful in what I put in my body. Now, they might not have accomplished bigger things. They might have not made as much money. But they kept their integrity in line, you know? And I think that is a big deal. I think that you should get credit for that, you know? You might not have the resume as others, but at least you know that you stayed clean. You did it by being clean, you know? And some people weren't clean. They just got off with it, you know. And that's when it comes with when it comes to speaking on that. He got caught by VADA. All right, VADA catches everything. You know, they test for everything. You know, the UCAD, you know, WADA. You know, they're not as their tests are not as random, not as often. They don't catch as many people. You know, it's like one of those things where we could be random, so make sure you stay cleaned. You know, we've done breakdowns on this channel with the difference of these organizations plenty of times. I think the last one I did was Dillian White and Oscar Rivas. I did several videos explaining UCAD and the BBB office and how it works. And it's the same scenario every single time. You know, people are going to get mad. The BBB of C is the ones that's not sanctioned in this fight. And what Eddie Hearn and I guess Team Benn and the lawyers and the guys with the suits, I guess they were trying to figure out a way to let this fight go forward by letting another board sanction the fight, which is, this looks bad, you know. And, you know, I like Eddie. You know, I like Eddie more than a lot of the other promoters. I don't want to say I like, because I really don't like the promoters, period. But I like him as a promoter because he does what I believe what a promoter should do, as in promoting the fight. Like, his face is out there every day. You're hearing an interview for him. He's giving you, I don't necessarily agree with him all the time. He does contradict himself a lot. He did here, because he has said his stance on how he feels about drug tests, you know, fighters that pop dirty. He said his piece on how he feels about it, and he's solely against it. But now his fighter, Conor Benn, one of his youngest, biggest stars, tests positive. And now, you know, well, Eubank is still on the go with it. Conor's on the go with it. Let's have this fight go on. And this is the problem. It's like, yo, listen, whatever we're going to decide here, are we going to allow drug testing or we're not going to allow it? If we're not going to allow it and we're going to all be consistent worldwide, then fine. But we can't play both sides of the field. You know, we can't be strict with drug testing only up until the point where the fighter that we like and support gets popped. It can't be that way. You know? So that is really my stance on it all. A few other things I didn't like that I heard. Eddie Hearn said that I read I think it might have been Michael Benson that posted this morning, either this morning or last night. Michael Benson from I read on Twitter, he quoted Eddie as saying, "Well, I think this fight is easier than the fight against the elite welterweights." Maybe it wasn't Benson. Damn, I apologize for that because I don't want to say something he said. I don't know if it was, I might have heard it in an interview. It might have been an IFL TV interview with Eddie. So I apologize. I should have checked that before I came on. But it just randomly popped up in my head. But Eddie Hearn had said, "I believe that the top welterweights at 147 are more difficult fights for Conor and Benn than this fight here with Chris Eubank Jr." Right? And he named guys like Spence, Jaron Ennis. He even brought up Danny Garcia, who moved up to 154. Right? He named a few top fighters at 147. Bud, I believe he said Bud, Crawford, Spence, Ennis, and he even mentioned Danny Garcia. And when I heard that, I was thinking to myself, if I was doing the interview, I would have said to Eddie, I was like, is that with the catch weight or without the catch weight? You know what I'm saying? Because you're basing that on the fact that you guys agreed to fight Eubank Jr. or demanded it to have a handicap. And that handicap is a catch weight, but also a rehydration clause. He can't be above a certain weight on the day of the fight, right? So you needed 2 handicaps. Plus, Conor Benn now has popped dirty, failed a drug test on a banned substance. So you needed Chris to come down to a weight that he hasn't fought at as a pro. You needed him to stay within a certain amount of pounds the next day after the weigh-in. So you basically drained him. Plus, you use banned substances to give you even more of an advantage. So Chris Eubank is parading around saying that I'm only at 60%. I'm only at 60%. But now Conor Benn is 120%. You get what I'm saying? So for you to say Eubank is an easier fight than these other 147 pounders or 154 pounders, these world champions or ex-world champions or top contenders, because Ennis is not even a champion yet. He's literally fought no one. And I love Ennis. In fact, I actually think he's going to be the next big thing. But what are we saying here? I think the boxing media need to do a better job with the, not just the questions, but the responses. Because that's something that needs to be countered right away when someone says something like that, But I understand everybody want to keep their credentials, so they got to be very careful not to go too hard with the questions. Eddie's usually good with doing interviews with people that are tough with him. He's done plenty of interviews with people that definitely don't like him. So I can't say the same with a lot of other promoters. So I'll give him credit for that. But he says certain things sometimes that, like, all right, bro. All right, so you're basically ducking, right? Because that's how I felt about Mikey, all right? Lomachenko was right there on your heels. You should have fought him at 135, but you would rather lose to the 147 fighter. Why? Because it's a better excuse to have if you lose. All right? Doesn't look so bad when you lose to a guy that's bigger than you than losing to a guy that's your size or smaller. Same thing with Kell Brook. Spence was your mandatory then. Instead, you fought Triple G. Got beaten up bad. Problem with Kell Brook is he actually got injured bad. Half his face was smashed in, and then Spence was able to finish off the job. This is what happens when you take shortcuts. All right. Same thing with Conor Benn. One thing that I was worried about is like, listen, win or lose, if he is to lose, hopefully he doesn't get beaten badly to a point where he's not going to be the same fighter going forward. You know, that was my stance on this fight. You know, losing to Chris Eubank Jr. is one thing, but getting beaten bad to a point where you might not even be in your physical prime yet. But you may never be the same again after this loss. And even if you don't get the injuries that a Kell Brook got, it could be mentally damaging if you go back down to 147 and, you know, coming off of an L against Eubank. That's if he would have lost the fight. All right. You know, I think I've covered more areas. You know, it was also the thing whether or not Conor Benn actually contacted Chris Eubank Jr. I brought it up on Twitter. Basically, Team Benn said that Conor Benn spoke to Chris Eubank Jr. directly. All right, and they both agreed that the fight they both wanted to go on. I know Chris Eubank had an interview with Darren Barker, and he basically said that he never received a phone call. Now, whether you want to take that as, and I don't know, it could be a Conor Benn team lying about that. All right, to make themselves look a little bit more honorable with the fact that he got caught. Or it could be Chris Eubank playing chess here to make the damage look even worse. Like, hey, you got caught cheating, but now you're even lying about having phone calls with me. They might have had a phone call, but Chris Eubank at this point is just going to make him look worse by lying. Or maybe he's telling the truth. We won't know. No one will ever know, you know. But Chris Eubank is a chess player, as we can see. And if he is lying about that part, I'm not surprised. It's the art of war, you know, at the end of the day. But it doesn't really matter. I know Matchroom cut that part of Conor Benn's or Chris Eubank's interview where he spoke on the phone call. He cut that part out. But if you look at the Fight Hub TVs, the Fight Hypes, and all the major media outlets that was there, they kept the full interview with Chris Eubanks mentioned the phone call, whereas Matchroom cut that part out because they didn't want people to see it. So you can take that for how you want to take it. You know, maybe they were trying to hide that because maybe it is a lie. I don't know. I just wanted to cover all grounds. I think I covered all grounds here. All right. It's been a lot of, so if I apologize if I'm getting some of the media messed up because I watched IFL TV interviews. I've seen tweets from Michael Benson. I've read reports on certain media sites. So I apologize. I don't have them all together. It's very unprofessional, but I'm just throwing a lot of things out there because I heard a lot of things in the past 3 days about this. I am very disappointed only because, look, I haven't been making much content, but nothing has happened since the Joseph Parker Joe Joyce fight week. We skipped boxing last week. There was no boxing last week, and this week this was supposed to be the major fight, and the fight got postponed. Okay, next week we do have Wilder, we do have Hellenius. I did do the breakdown for that. I'm still gonna give you a breakdown on the other fights that's going down. So be patient. As soon as I get some downtime, I will probably make quick prediction videos because I just don't have the time to do a full breakdown. But with that being said, it is what it is. I've lost interest in the fight because I don't believe in Team Benn. I never liked the rehydration clause to begin with in the catch weight. I said on Twitter, the first thing I said when this news broke is that if they're going to try to continue having this fight, remove the rehydration clause and the catch weight. Let him fight Eubank at 160 while he's clean and let Conor Benn be juiced up. Basically, I think the catch weight, the rehydration clause, and the drugs is just too much. It's just too much. Right? But the fight's not happening anymore. Right? Which it shouldn't. Right? We got to be consistent with everybody. And for Conor Benn, listen, it's not the end of the world. You hop 30. We're going to bring it up. We are. But you can change it around, and you can let this never happen again. Just be a little bit more careful on what you put in your body. It happened. If you are going to continue to have a great career and accomplish great things, become champions in different divisions or whatever, unify, undisputed, whatever you do and accomplish in your career, cool. Just keep it clean moving forward. All right. I'm not going to hold this against you for the rest of your career. All right. It happens it happens with too many greats at this point. All right. So listen, I'm out of here, man. Again, I'm going to drop some content for the next week or two. Not that much because I am moving and it's going to be hard for me to do it. All right. And I got to settle in the new place and all that stuff. But I will drop content here and there when I can. But shout out to everybody here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, smash that like button. Follow me on Twitter and all that stuff, IG. And I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm out here. Peace.